Hello everyone, this is Dawn Montgomery from CASAS. Welcome from the West Coast in San Diego, California. Welcome to everyone joining today's workshop across the nation all the way to the East Coast. Today's workshop is on how to register we just went through how to register computers in the previous workshop. Now today we're going to build on creating sessions so that so that you can deliver CASAS web-based tests on those registered machines. This is, as mentioned earlier, and as I will mention in all our workshops, is that this is simply one workshop in a set of 23 complementary CASAS Online implementation workshops. You are not expected to attend all 23 workshops in each set as indicated by the Citrix Online system. This is a training room that is set up to conduct all 23 workshops in a set. We do certainly highly recommend that you attend as many as possible to learn about best practices. Feel free to ask questions and to become confident in using the online system. Online help documentation is available on our website under Training and Support. E-test help documentation, as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise help documentation. You will want to be sure and bookmark these links as your electronic go-to resources, particularly the CASAS E-Test online guide. This guide, it provides most of the information covered in these workshops. The guide is over 230 pages, so you may want to simply save this to your desktop as your electronic go-to resource. By all means, you are welcome to print it out. We will be updating this guide as we are preparing for the 2015 National Summer Institute. We hold a Summer Institute annually in San Diego in June, and we have information on our website for you and invite you to join us. It's a tremendous opportunity to network with others and to have a broad understanding of CASAS and how CASAS is used by multiple types of agencies and programs. And the dates are June 23rd through June 25th. Today's workshop will cover section, let's see, and I put that in the chat box here, section 3.2, creating sessions. And let me just go to the table of contents here, which is part of coordinator duties. Coordinators are responsible for overseeing the registration of machines or computers as registered testing stations, and as well as being responsible for creating sessions to deliver CASAS web-based assessments. Those are the primary duties assigned to a certified coordinator. Certified proctors do not have the ability to create or edit testing sessions. Okay, this is your safeguard to ensure that adherence to standardization at your local agency. Okay, section 3.2 is quite lengthy, provides a wealth of information, and we'll touch on some pieces of information, but I would encourage you to, when time permits, to read through section 3.2 in its entirety to have a good understanding of what's involved and what's available, what's involved with creating sessions, and what is available in CASAS E-Test Online. Before we get started, I do want to point out that you will find access to CASAS E-Test Online as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise Online, as indicated in this link prefaced by TE, short for TOPS Pro Enterprise. From the main domain address name of etests test is plural, online.org. This is the main domain name address that you will use when your agency is set up with an online database. We commonly refer to this web address as the production server, where you will be producing live data. For today's workshop, we will be using the simulation server for Rolling Hills Adult School. This is a fictional database. We have information available in the CASAS e-test help documentation for you to access the simulation server. That is found under e-test help documentation under Getting Started, and there's a document here titled Simulation Server. The simulation server refreshes nightly, so what you do one day will not be present the next day. You have a fresh database to work with at the start of any day. Okay. Now let's move on over into today's workshop. There is quite a lot of information in this topic, and I will try my best to touch on the highlights as well as do a quick demonstration on how sessions are created. I do want to let you know, folks, that we are piloting the setup of your testing sessions for you that includes establishing a template to ensure standardization for what gets delivered and how it gets delivered to students in all of your programs at every site location. Hopefully you will take us up on doing that. But for those of you who like to take the bull by the horns or take the helm and do this on your own and learn, by all means, we don't want to rob you of that opportunity. Okay? Now, the creating testing sessions can be, and I just want to point this out, it can be a one-time task, as it is with registering computers. Those of you who participated in the Registering Computers workshop earlier, I emphasized that registering a computer as a testing station is a one-time task, and that station will remain registered forever until such a point in time you decide to no longer use that machine. Well, the same concept as far as performing the task once holds true with creating sessions. Once sessions are created, then anytime thereafter, proctors simply start and stop sessions whenever testing is needed. That is, the proctor's primary duty is to administer assessments and manage the sessions. Okay. Now, and as mentioned earlier, a certified coordinator is responsible for completing these steps, in other words, creating sessions. Now, I'm going to point to some information here as I toggle back and forth between the simulation server. I'm going to sign in as a certified coordinator to display a list of testing sessions. We have some pre-configured testing sessions readily available in the fictional Rolling Hills Adult School simulation server, so that after you've gone through the process of registering a machine, then you can add it to any one of these sessions to mimic delivering a CASAS web-based assessment. Now, folks, this application is identical to the application on the production server. It actually has live or true test forms. However, the protected test content, in other words, our standardized fixed forms for reading and math at all levels and listening and so forth, the protected test content is not displayed on the Rolling Hills Adult School simulation server. This is to protect the integrity of the assessment and adhere to test security. So all protected test content is suppressed. You do not see the protected test content. You will just see placeholders where the protected test content would otherwise display. Now, please take note that if you are trying out the listening tests, if you launch into any pre or post-test session for listening, the audio as well as the screen display is suppressed as well. So you may mistakenly think that your audio is not working. Well, it is. It's just that you happen to be in a protected test content area. Now, folks, these practice test sessions for ESL to practice reading and listening, as well as ABE to practice reading and math, practice test items are not suppressed. So I would encourage you first to go through some practice tests so that you see the full screen display within the listening context, you hear the full listening as well as the prompts and so forth. Okay? Now, I know that there are quite a lot of sessions displaying on this list. We call these template families. So, for example, the sessions that have 2014-15 for ABE, this is an ABE template family. So the template is named, we recommend naming templates by the name of the program. So that is in the the information that is not contained in parentheses. And then what is contained in parentheses provides the details of this specific session that is sharing a standard template for the ABE program. So what's in parentheses defines the uniqueness of each session as well as the purpose of each type of session. And I'll talk briefly on the purpose of all of these sessions. Now, folks, you may very well not use all or need all of these sessions within each program, and that is perfectly fine. However, we will add them for you so that you can decide which will work for your programs. Any session in a program set without associated testing activity can be deleted without having an impact on the other sessions. Okay. Let's see here. The template name should identify the program for which you will create sessions configured to specify what gets delivered and how it gets delivered. And without pre-assigning stations to any of these sessions gives you maximum flexibility to use any registered testing station at any time to deliver any test to any student in any program simultaneously. Let's see. We have 3 types of intake sessions, both for the ABE program as well as the ESL program. Intake sessions allow new student records to be added at the time of testing and align with the recommended CASAS intake process to ensure accurate test results. Folks, we do have a session scheduled on the intake process right here, and that is next Tuesday, March 24th. I encourage you to please be sure and attend this session as we will discuss the recommended intake process, and that will further clarify why there are 3 types of intake sessions. The intake sessions are designed to place learners at an instructional level according to the lower of 2 pre-test scores. Now, not all of you will be using multiple modalities within your programs, and that's perfectly fine. I would say majority of programs do, for example, for ABE or high school diploma completion programs or high school equivalency prep programs. So, for example, preparing students to take the GED, HiSET, or TASC. Those are the 3 NRS-approved high school equivalency exams. Typically, they will administer both reading and math to students. And then ESL programs typically administer reading and listening. Now, if you use a registration with practice session, then data collection screens are skipped during any one of these intake sessions, and learners can simply begin testing. If you do not use the registration with practice session, then learners will complete the registration process. In other words, apply information to data collection screens, such as their gender, native language, date of birth, highest year of school completion, and so forth. They will complete that during the intake process. So these sessions here give you that option to perhaps hold a registration session completely separate from the testing event. Perhaps you might have pre-registration to capture students, to establish those student records in your online database, and allow the student the opportunity to practice so that they have an indication of what to expect when they return on a specified day and time to actually go through the intake process. That's a benefit to perhaps and hopefully reduce any test anxiety students may feel. Okay. There is a practice test session alone that can be used in classrooms. Teachers can incorporate taking practice tests to help as a way to help introduce students to how CASAS delivers web-based tests. We had a practice test session last week that introduced many of you to the user interface of a CASAS web-based delivered test. And so there are lots of areas in that test administration to point out to students that teachers as well as lab assistants in labs can comfortably allow students to take practice tests as many times as they wish without any data being recorded for that student. Okay. Now there is a post-test session, and that session is designed to lock creation of new student records. Folks, what this does for you is it ensures that students enter a pre-existing ID to ensure that they are presented with the appropriate level post-test that is based on their prior test history recorded in the online database. The recommendation is to post-test after 70 to 100 hours of instruction, 40 hours minimum according to the NRS, in order to document learning gains. And then retest same day. There is a retest same day session available to you to use in those instances where a student, if they happened to the results of the test that they just took, if it happens to be below accurate range, then retesting is required. If their test that they just completed is a conservative estimate, in other words, at the very top range of a level, that does not necessarily give you enough indication of the student's areas of need. So in both instances, the application will automatically adjust and present the appropriate level test based on those prior test results. So there's nothing that the proctor or the coordinator need to set up ahead of time. And if it becomes your practice to retest students in the same day, provided the student has time available and your testing time frame, time period, there is enough time for complete administration or re-administration of a test, then I would say go ahead and test the student while you have them, as long as the student is willing. Okay. There is another session called returning session that would re-administer a locator and then a next test. A returning student session, folks, some of you may be familiar with the term stop-outs, and so if you are, you will understand that stop-outs do represent returning students. In other words, this session should be used when students return after being absent from instruction for a specified period of time according to your state assessment policy, or perhaps you may have a local assessment policy. I know that we have several folks here joining today's workshop from Tennessee because you are embarking on a large implementation throughout Tennessee, so I have yet to become familiar with Tennessee's assessment policy. Some of you are joining us from Florida as well as DC. I know Florida has a 4-month stop-out policy. DC, I can't actually recall your stop-out policy. I apologize for that. Washington State, yours is 2 quarters or approximately 6 months time frame. So it's good to know those various time periods to understand when it is appropriate to use this returning locator plus next test. The locator will determine an appropriate test based on that point in time when the student returns. Okay. We already talked about the registration with practice, and the CASAS eTest Online can be used as a registration system if you are an organization that does not already have a formal third-party vendor or registration system. You can certainly use the online system as a registration system. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, and it's going to go by so quick, folks, trust me, but I want to demonstrate in these remaining minutes on how we set up your sessions, okay? And in the guide, in this Creating Sessions section, as I mentioned, there's quite a lot of information in this section. Goes into details about the validity period. We emphasized sessions are available for use throughout an entire program year, selecting modalities, your test sequence. There's talking about the difference between or what constitutes a computer-based test, what constitutes a locator as compared to an appraisal. What is the difference? We also have computer adaptive tests, extended reading tests, extended range reading tests, and then some specific information about these other assessments that are available in CASAS eTest Online. And then also talking about customizing session templates, customizing a student configuration as well as a station configuration. So here again, there is quite a lot of information that goes into great detail in this section before getting to the tutorial for creating sessions, which begins on page 46. Okay, so I haven't even got to page 46 yet, which begins actually right here. Now, this is you can certainly follow this, and you will be very successful in creating a template family for one of your programs. I use ABE as an example in this tutorial. And then on page, oh goodness, let's see, page 58, then I give, and forgive me, folks, for streaming through these screens here, but on page 58, then I give you just in a short abbreviated form for quick steps to building an ESL template family. So I would say go through the exercise using the scripted tutorial in the previous pages to create an ABE template family, to become familiar with how to build upon the session configuration, and then use that knowledge to then build the ESL template family. This is simply the same exact steps as demonstrated in the step-by-step tutorial. It just does not contain the screenshots. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate live for you on how to quickly build a template family. So here again, we want to use the preface it. I would recommend prefacing it with the program year in which you are using the sessions. And here again, I'm going to use ABE as an example here. And I'm going to use a different site only because we already have these identical sessions created at North Campus. Okay, so this establishes the template for which all of your sessions will share a standard configuration. Our recommendation is not to pre-assign stations to any sessions or pre-assign students to any sessions. There is detailed information about when it is appropriate for a station configuration and when it is appropriate for a student configuration. This workshop is too short to go into that detail, folks, so please refer to the CASAS E-Test Online Guide. I'm going to call this an intake, and this is locator plus pre-test. Okay, the validity period, we encourage you to set these up on a per program year basis and reuse whenever testing is needed. Our ABE program is going to use reading and math modality. The approved reading assessment for ABE is the Life and Work series. The NRS approved assessment series for math is the 30 series, the Life Skills Math series. And folks, I'm going through this quickly, so because of the time frame here remaining, but we will do this configuration for you. However, you have the reference in the guide itself to give you more detailed information. Now, we do recommend, and these settings are based on recommended best practices. We do recommend the I don't know button on the locator to allow students to skip. Otherwise, they are required to apply a response for every item presented on the locator. The registration information, I would collect student demographics, status and primary, primary and secondary goals and personal and labor force status. Zip code, Washington, D.C. folks, you would definitely want to select collecting ward if you are with the WIA Title I program. Since we are configuring this for ABE, then it is not necessary to collect the program information from the student, so we simply disable that screen by clearing the dash from the box and pre-selecting the ABE program. On the layout screen, we recommend showing the toolbar pinned, and more programs are disabling the form number and remaining items. We're going to leave the admin settings as is, and we're going to view all of this in effective mode, which shows you a combination of user edits and system inherited defaults combined. So this is what will be truly effective for this session. On the layout tab, you will see that the summary report will display to the students, indicating the scale score if that score is below or above accurate range, and the scale score descriptors, and allowing the student to print. Folks, these are all optional settings. If you are in a lab that you want to display the personal score report, that's fine, but you don't have to allow students to print, so we can simply deselect that for you. The layout, the toolbar, those of you who participated in the practice test session last week and saw the user interface, you would be familiar with the toolbar. There is reference to this in the creating sessions section. Okay. Whereas you see the inherited, these are system inherited defaults. We made user edits here, as you see displayed, and then in effective mode, this shows you user edits and system inherited defaults combined. On the registration tab, the same holds true. Here are our user edits to the system inherited defaults to see what will be effective for this session. Same holds true on the Options tab. These are the pre-configured timing, the locator for 15 minutes to determine an appropriate level pretest, and administer the pretest immediately following for a standard 60-minute test administration. And then the modalities. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to, let me bring this to the North City ESL campus. And sorry, it says ESL and we're doing ABE, but I just selected it at random. Okay, now for time's sake, I'm going to not do all of the sessions, but I can copy this session and turn it into a post-test session to where I make only 2 edits, one on the option tab to hide the practice test from the test menu at the top because I want students to use their time efficiently and go directly into their post or progress test. The thought is that they've already done a sufficient amount of practice and already gone through administration, so they don't need to go through practice at that time. But of course, this is optional, folks. On the registration tab, we definitely want to lock creation of new students as your safeguard against duplicated student records and duplicated testing. Those are the only 2 edits to add to this session here. And now we are going to save. It's as simple as that. Because we've already established the ABE template, that gives us the ability to copy these sessions with the assurance of retaining that standardization. And I'm going to say retest same day. And the only edit I'm going to do on that is to change the days between tests of the same modality to 0 so that I can literally retest in the same day. Otherwise, by default, there is a 1-day, 24-hour period between administration of tests of the same modality. This is intentional so that when the student is finished with one modality, it's obvious to the student on this test menu screen of what the next test is for them to go into. Once they've completed all tests that are available to them, the system says goodbye and log out. Okay? All right, so I'm going to save that session. I'm also going to go back up and copy the post-test session and label this returning students are just returning. I'll just shorten it up, and this is locator plus next test, and this is for those stopouts. And all I'm going to do on that is simply use the locator to determine the appropriate level next test at the time of return, because it may be 6 months even, and it would not be appropriate to administer a progress test or post-test based on when the student was last receiving or actively participating in instruction. Okay, and I'm going to save that. All right, so folks, due to lack of time, I just kind of simplified it. I would say this would represent the minimum amount of sessions that we recommend that you use. Well, I guess literally at minimum is your pre-test and a post-test session. However, this gives you added options in a live testing environment when the occasion permits these descriptions. Okay, we do though recommend using the CASAS recommended intake process, which adds those additional intake sessions, and I won't be going into that detail in this session. We will be doing that next week. But folks, that's this represents how quick it is for us to set up the sessions for you based on your local assessment policy as well as your state assessment policy for your assurance that there is standardization in what and how tests get delivered. So please review section 3.2 in the CASAS eTest Online Guide. Are there any questions that I can address at this point in time? I apologize for keeping you over time, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Please call the...
Okay, and Carlos, you said, what about the retest for the appraisal? Are you talking about the returning locator plus next test? The retest same day would not re-administer a locator or an appraisal. A locator is a shortened version of the appraisal. The locator is computer adaptive compared to the standardized fixed form appraisal. Locators are administered in 15 minutes, whereas a standardized fixed form appraisal is 30 minutes per modality. So administering a locator plus pretest in one sitting is not only a time-saving benefit, but a cost saving benefit as well, because you will only consume one online test administration when used combined. If you are an agency, and you certainly have this option, to use the standardized fixed form appraisal instead, and we do have some organizations that literally do not have time to administer the pre-tests, the locator and pretest, or appraisal and pretest, in one dedicated time period. And so some organizations may only have time to administer an appraisal to accurately place the student at an appropriate instructional level, with the intent that that student returns to the lab to go through the pretest process. And you certainly do have that option if you happen to have a registration and intake process, in other words, registration and appraisal, and call that your registration, and then the student return later to take the pretest, minus the data collection screens, minus the appraisal process. You do have that option to structure. So a lot of it does, we engage in conversation with you if we are providing assistance to set up your sessions for you. And so we'll do kind of a quick Q&A with you so that we can go ahead and structure and set up the sessions that seem most appropriate to you. Okay, and where can you find the guide again? Very good question. That is available on the CASAS website under Training and Support. And then the very first link at the middle left is ET Help Documentation. That's short for E-Tests Help Documentation, and the guide is right here in the middle of the screen, the E-Test Online Guide. Okay? All right. And let me scroll my chat here. Carlos, okay, you're welcome, Carlos. I'm glad that answered your question. And Elaine, yes, thank you. You're welcome. Any further questions, folks? I would recommend that you take us up on configuring the sessions for you. But you know, and please be assured that we will collaborate with you first. We're not dictating what you should do and how you should do it. We're just doing this as a benefit to you, because the template and the session configurations can get a little bit tricky, especially when you are viewing an already configured saved session, because now you see you have a session configuration separate from your template configuration. We introduced templates at the beginning of this calendar year as a way of organizations to control the standardization across all of their sessions sharing the same template. Let's say that you decide across all of those sessions that you will say no longer allow students to print. I can make that adjustments, or let's say for that matter you decide to no longer show the end test report, that personal summary at the end of testing. You can completely disable that personal score report by just simply making the edit on the template configuration, saving that template configuration, and that has a simultaneous effect by editing all of these other sessions sharing the same template. And to prove my case, I can click into any of those sessions sharing the template, and you will see in effective mode on the layout screen that that personal score report is in fact disabled. Okay? All right, folks, I've kept you well over time. My apologies again. If there is anything that I can help to bring clarification to, or any other information that you may not have had the opportunity to have addressed during this workshop, please feel free to contact me. My email is, and I'm typing it in the chat box, is dmontgomery@casas.org. I look forward to seeing as many of you again in tomorrow's workshops, which are on managing sessions and administering tests. Okay, these are steps that you will, that your proctors will need to know how to do, as well as on Thursday sessions for interrupting tests and reconnecting tests. Okay, thank you again, folks, for your participation. We value your partnership and look forward to assisting you or providing as much assistance as possible and support to get you up and running successfully with CASAS Online. Have a good day. Thank you.